Hey, just so you know, this is part 2 of an ongoing series. Make sure you give that a watch to understand how I'm judging these games and to catch up on the list. Last time, we looked at what made Mario, Mario, and discussed some of the more weaker entries in the series. This time though, things get spicy. So let's cut to the chase and continue the 2D Mario tier list. Yeah, this is a Mario game, and it's a good one too. Being the US' sequel to the original, this was drastically different than what players were used to or expected. You now had a character select screen, each with different properties, no real power-ups, and there wasn't a single Mario enemy. This took everything Mario players knew and threw it out the window, but it by no means makes it bad. You can now pick up enemies and toss them at each other, grab veggies and throw them, POW blocks come back from the arcade game, and it's a little bit more exploratory than straight platforming. It also added verticality to the Mario series, and it only got better in future titles. Platforming is by far Super Mario Bros. 2's strongest point, as the character diversity really shakes up the gameplay. Mario for traditional, Luigi for high jumps, low friction, Toad for speed in the movement and items department, but has a low jump, and Peach can float, which negates all of her flaws. Generally speaking though, the mechanics of the game are really well fleshed out, and it feels as solid as any other Mario. By far the weakest point is power-ups, because there's only 2, and then the rest are just items. The Super Shroom increases your total health, and the Starman makes a return after collecting 5 cherries. The POW block is a cool item, but not really a power-up, and the same can be said for the Koopa Shell. You kinda just throw shit, as nothing really affects the platforming. Everything about the design of this game is really something, from the music to the characters to the level variety. Even from a Doki Doki standpoint, it was made extremely well. Then as soon as you add Super Mario Advance, it gets even better. I think the one thing keeping it apart from the other Mario games is just verticality. It's good, but there are some less than refined moments in the level design. This game has quite the version count: Doki Doki, NES, All-Stars, and Advance. My money's on the All-Stars version. The updated graphics really help with the immersion, and while I would say the Advance is the definitive version because of the extra content and tweaked gameplay stuff, playing in Squintovision really sucks, and it makes the verticality nitpick a real nerf. Super Mario Land 2's 6 golden coins is the best way to do a sequel, as it drastically improved on all aspects compared to the previous title. Better graphics, better music, better gameplay, all of it. As a kid, this was one of my most played Game Boy games, and for good reason. The overworld map is interesting, showing you which world you're gonna enter, having a little bonus minigame and some bonus stages, and it also has an amazing intro level that teaches you about the game. Lastly, this introduced the German doppelganger Wario, which as a final boss, is pretty flippin' neat. The platforming in this game is light years better than its predecessor, feeling like an actual Mario game. With the inclusion of the spin jump from Super Mario World, this game has a lot going for it in the physics department, but it is super floaty. It feels as though Mario just loses aerial momentum randomly, and oopsie. The carrot is a great complement to this game's level design, as a flying power-up would break the game. The Fire Flower took on an additional function to break specific blocks, which adds on some depths to how you do things. And Starman is Starman. The presentation in Super Mario Land 2 is so good, it makes you wonder how the first one could suck so much ass. This basically looks like a Super Nintendo game with detailed sprites, backgrounds, hell, even the file select is dope. Introducing a freely explorable overworld where the player can choose how they want to approach each world is wild, considering something like that has never been done again. Lastly, the feeling of progression in this game is real. Watching the coins fill up Wario's castle door each time you beat a world, the little white surrender flag over each area, it's incredible. The weakness of this game is that it's just a little too easy. New Super Mario Bros. Is pretty flippin' good, and of course it set the groundwork for the rest of the series. It introduced the Mega Shroom, which is a little dumb, the Tiny Shroom, which is the exact opposite of dumb, and the Koopa Shell, which is but what it did was it set the expectation of the 2D Mario's mechanics, using the triple jump, wall jumps, and ground pound, all of which are implemented extremely well here. Bizarrely, you only need to play 6 out of the 8 worlds, which I think is kinda cool. Going back to play 4 and 7 add great replay value and inherent value to the Tiny Shroom, which in this game is mwah. And if you have a buddy to play with, the multiplayer is super rad and can get real intense. The Mario 64 minigames are neat. Hate to sound repetitive, but it's the nature of the series. Platforming feels really tight. The 3D moves carry well, and the feeling of momentum preservation has returned in a subtle way that the later titles seem to lack. Power-ups are more hit than miss in this game, with the Tiny Shroom being the best addition. It makes Mario super tiny, and he dies in one hit, but he's ridiculously floaty in the air, gets slightly better wall jumps, and can run on water. It's also the only way to access Worlds 4 and 7, and a decent amount of the star coins. It's crazy how much one power-up does when, contrastly, the Mega Shroom is technically helpful in the sense that you can literally blow through stuff and get 1-ups, but it feels anti-fun and jank. And the Koopa Shell is The art design is great for a DS game, and the level design is top-notch. Music is a little better than future titles, and it def stands out as a more memorable overworld theme for sure. The Versus multiplayer, I cannot stress enough, is an amazing mode in this game, and the minigames are cool time killers. The title that had launched Mario's platforming career is still a beauty of a game. Considering the time it was released, it's a miracle this game exists. While Mario games have gotten much better, it holds its own against later entries with one major advantage. Its control. To this day, I would argue that this game has near perfect platforming controls, even comparing to the top tiers. What holds it back, and even only slightly, is that it's a short linear game. And I don't think that's inherently a bad thing either, but with how grand scale Mario games would become, this feels hyper linear by comparison. The one thing that puts the original Mario into high tier is this.
We gotta go fast.
Now, I'm no speedrunner of this game, but blazing through levels with pixel-perfect precision is some of the most satisfying things a person could watch. For basically the first real platformer, it's almost perfect. Like I said, 2D platforming at its finest. Precise, consistent, fluidity, all of this comes with controlling Mario. Momentum is huge in this game and it rewards players for being good at it. That's the shit I love. And as far as unintended mechanics go, wall jumping, position shifting, double jumping, wall clipping, add tiny nuanced depth that I can't help but squee. Even as a casual experience, there's something so natural to controlling Mario that is just plain fun. This game is lacking in power-ups because, well, it's the first Mario. It set up the formula into Mushroom into X, with the extra power-ups being a hit. You got your Starman to blaze through stuff, but nothing affected Mario's movement directly. The presentation in this game defines the early NES. The title screen, the overworld theme, the little sound effects, and if we take the Super Nintendo version into account, detailed backgrounds that really throw you into the Mushroom Kingdom. This game also comes with a handful of versions. NES, All-Stars, and Deluxe. Very much like Mario 2, Deluxe would be the definitive version if not for Squintovision, and it's real bad in this one. The aspect ratio of the Game Boy Color for this type of game is just dog shit. I'd say NES version for speedruns, All-Stars for casuals. Lost Levels is the Dark Souls of Mario. Honestly though, it's an enhanced version in every way. More detail, more enemies, actual puzzle platforming, weather hazards, power downs, and this. You can now play as regular Mario or now as Luigi. While present in US 2, this is the first time it actually appeared. And Luigi has different physics than Mario, and it's brilliant. Mario's jumps are harder to make, but he has better control, so good players can move faster. And Luigi's jumps are easier to make for casual players, but his lack of control makes precise movement harder. But he has a higher skill cap because better players that can abuse his high jump range and mitigate control loss are at an objective advantage. And I love that stuff. The Famicom Disk Drive definitely gave this title an edge over Mario 1 in all the best ways. There's not a crazy ton to add about platforming other than selecting Luigi, weather hazards, and puzzles. Luigi as an additional game mode is such a cool option. Weather hazards like the wind and snow are great in terms of variety and make players rethink jumps. Puzzles are the dickhead portion where if you didn't hit that specific block or find the hidden block or go down the right pipe, you fucking lose, kid. The power-ups are virtually the same, with the only inclusion being a power down, Poison Shroom. Really, the coolest thing about it is how players now need to consider the blocks they're gonna hit, as there's risk versus reward to it. Nintendo really stepped up the presentation on this one thanks to the Famicom Disk Drive, as the extra detail really helped in ways of graphical and audio improvements. You can clearly see the weather hazards, and I'm a huge fan of the difficulty this title brings. This game has the same lineup and remakes as the first one does, and honestly I'd probably just say play the Famicom version as it's strong as its own, but the All-Stars one is just as good. New Super Mario Bros. For the DS is good, but this is hands down the best New Super Mario Bros. And it's all because of this. While present in the titles after this one, it doesn't feel anywhere near as useful or impactful as it does in New Super Mario Bros. Wii. The levels feel as though they were so cleverly designed around this mechanic, it's nuts. The propeller shroom is integrated too well with this mechanic for its own good. With the Wii's better hardware and controls, controlling Mario almost feels as precise as the classic games. And with the world map a la Super Mario Bros. 3, the players just have options, and that's always a good thing. The thing holding this back from being top tier is that you get way too many lives, and game overs just aren't punishing enough. If it reset the whole world map, and not just back to the last castle or ghost house, it would have been a much better difficulty balance for the amount of lives you end up getting. This is the best platforming in the entire new series. The twirl, long stretches for better runs into triple jumps, tight wall jumps, and complementing verticality make this entry a super tight experience. I think the power-ups are a little underwhelming, simply because I don't feel as though the Tiny Shroom was implemented as well as its prequel, which is unfortunate because that was that game's strongest in terms of design. And the penguin suit is pretty useful, especially compared to the Koopa suit and the squirrel suit. It's just not fun? Thankfully, the Propeller Shroom carries the whole game as probably one of the better designed Mario power-ups in the franchise. The only thing I feel it lacks is skill. Nintendo sets up tricky challenges for sure, but you can't get better with that item. The presentation is the weakest point, but it's the best in the new series. The UI was enhanced from the DS version, and then they copied it 2 more times after that. The 4-player co-op is as chaotic as I want it to be, has sick endgame levels, looks great today, and sounds alright. Well, this list is really starting to come along, don't you think? Personally, New Super Mario Bros. Wii is probably the biggest upset on the list. Honestly, when playing the games for the footage and writing the script, I really thought that Super Mario Land 2 was going to be at the top of high tier. But both of the New Super Mario Bros. Had this level of fluidity in both its gameplay and pacing that the experience was probably better than the first time I ever played. Keep in mind, all of these games are quintessential Mario experiences, so do not skip out on these titles. Next time, we discuss the top tiers. Subscribe so you don't miss out on this monumental conclusion. Thanks for watching. Deuces!